We are so used to a benevolent, kind, ever-accommodating Jesus throughout the large majority of the Holy Scripture. Yet today, what did we just hear? We heard a dismissive, if not rude, Jesus, who seems all too ready to ignore human suffering. Well, we have to admit, maybe he's having a bad hair day. Or he's just a little too tired of, paying attention to all these people that are always asking for something. Or maybe he just needs a respite from everything. Here he is refusing this Canaanite woman who is suffering high anguish as her daughter is tormented by an extreme stress, some demon that holds her spirit tightly. Not once, but twice, Jesus refuses her entreaties for mercy, and finally, exasperated, he turns her away with crudeness. Oh, it's not right to take the food from the children and throw it to the dogs. Matthew's gospel is written some 40 to 50 years after the time of Jesus' death and glorious resurrection. It emerges from a faith community that is now dealing with two issues: the role of Gentiles, that is, foreigners of different cultural and ethnic backgrounds, embracing the Lord Christ and wishing to be part of the early church. The questions are obvious. So what do we do with this human influx? Should they totally assimilate in becoming like us, former Jews of Palestine? And the second issue that is before us today: what of women? Women who were honored at the time of Jesus. Do we change the cultural narrative to include the very presence of and the gifts of women in a highly misogynistic society? Well, that was a long time ago, but it sounds a little familiar, doesn't it? In the Episcopal Church, our own tradition, in the 1920s, the church lifted up women who were called deaconesses, primarily catechists, teachers in the church. They were set aside officially, not ordained, but set aside. But who would have guessed that we would come to that time in which we would have a presiding bishop who would represent us as a church, the only woman amongst 38 primates of the Anglican tradition. We might even know daring young priests who walked across the line with others to address the issue of civil rights in our country. And today that march continues on, and that has taken us to a full embracing of the LGBT community, not only here in our churches, but in our pulpits, in our cathedrals, and today in our episcopacy. And who would have known that it was not that long ago that an African-American presiding bishop represented us amongst those 38 primates and spoke to and for us. The gospel that has unfolded for us this morning speaks of the struggle that Jesus has in dealing with these very issues as he encounters the Canaanite woman, a very persistent woman who refuses to take no for an answer. At first, Jesus squirms in his discomfort because, you see, she's not Jewish. No. Oh, she's from another culture, another region. She's a Canaanite. She worships a little differently than we do. Yet fairness and justice will not be diminished by this woman. Her voice will be heard and honored, and it will challenge and convince Jesus. And ultimately, her persistence will prick his ears. And her deep love for her daughter, her belief in the depth of God's love for each and all upon this earth, will finally convince and transform Jesus. It is her faith in a loving God who hears and heals all that has Jesus turning towards her, not away from her, declaring finally, "Woman, great is your faith." We don't hear that anywhere else in the scriptures. We never hear, "Oh man, great is your..." No. Only with the Canaanite woman. The English author C.S. Lewis once wrote an essay entitled "The Inner Ring," in which he points out that there are rings in which people live and play within. Think about your time when you were out there in the playgrounds so many years ago. Some get to play inside the ring, leaving others to stay on the outer edge, if not outside completely. Obviously, there are inherent advantages to being on the inside, getting the most attention in class, choosing the best friends, getting the best table in the cafeteria, living in a mutual admiration society with the other chosen best kids. Yet ultimately we know that the existence of such circles is always destructive. To gain status and self-worth causes one to constantly compare oneself to another, to feel anguish and resentment if left out, and eventually, if once powerful, but now impotent, feeling deep anger that can even progress into aggressive, violent behavior, especially when someone is less worthy, but gets in and enjoys the fruits of that position. Whether it be religious or cultural or ethnic identity coupled with position and power, once you're in, you must do everything in your power to keep others out, because it is only the exclusivity of that particular group that makes you feel worthy and secure and special and powerful. 8 years ago, not very long ago really, just 8 years ago, we experienced a gut-wrenching time in America as neo-Nazis and white supremacists and other fringe groups, defined by fear and distrust, if not hate, gathered in Charlottesville, Virginia, for a combined Unite the Right rally. Red and black swastika flags flew beside the flag of Old Dixie. Anti-Semitic and anti-black chants echoed in the streets of that city that was daring to confront a past grounded in the historic narrative of slavery, echoing Governor George C. Wallace's famous inaugural statement, "Segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever." And by the end of that Saturday, a wonderful young woman by the name of Heather Heyer lay dead on the ground, smeared with the blood of 19 other victims. Acceptance and honor and respect are the words that Jesus exemplified as he was challenged by that Canaanite woman. Those universal words were the same ones practiced by Heather, by her very presence and by her hope, the hope that she embodied. Heather's last Facebook entry before her tragic death was simply, "If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention." Her mother would later say of Heather's death that it be a rally cry for justice and equality, fairness and compassion. As Jesus broke his own circle of defense to hear, to heal, to love the other in that woman and her daughter, may we too break apart the circles that hold us back from one another, that hold us back from our own awareness of the fear and then the insecurity that ties us down, so that a community of justice and equality and fairness and compassion may be built here and now. Our faith community, like that Canaanite woman, will lead us through the heartaches and the torments of self-made and self-enjoyed circles, and will overcome our prejudices, if not our hatred, and give us hearts large enough to welcome each and all upon God's earth. And when we retreat into one of those self-satisfying, comfortable, culturally driven circles, embrace Heather's cry. If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention.